Hello, and welcome back to Psych 2250, Abnormal Psychology. My name is Michael Holman, and I'm your instructor for this course. Now, in my last video, I let you know that we were going to be talking about writing assignments, and that's because writing assignments are a huge part of this course. They're a big deal. So they have their own fun little section, and if you come here on your intro page, you can go right to the section and get started on that. Now, notice this opening statement. Throughout this course, you have 3 very important writing assignments. These will take both preparation and outside research and should not be left to do at the last minute. Below are these 3 assignments, their due dates, what module they're located in, and how much they're worth. So you'll notice that the assignments get increasingly more important as the time goes on. So you've got writing assignment 1, assignment 2, assignment 3, which is the one that everybody wants to know about. We're going to talk about each one of them. So we'll start with writing assignment 1. This one is pretty simple. All I want you to do is watch a movie that features a psychological disorder that we have covered up to this point. Note, you may not choose a psychological disorder that we have not covered yet. That's very important. A lot of people will want to, do something like Split for this particular assignment. That's not what I asked you to do. You need to pick a disorder that features in a movie, and it's got to be one of these guys. So we've got lots of options here. I need you to go out and find a movie that features any of these. This is not impossible. So find a movie that features one of these disorders, and then write a 2 to 3 page well-defined paper on that disorder and how the character portrayed the disorder in the movie. Your paper should tell me the name of the movie, the name of the character with the disorder, brief summary of the film and the character's role within it, what psychological disorder do they have, did they show the typical symptoms, so what were their symptoms specifically, use your DSM for that. Based on what you've learned in this class, do you believe this movie was an accurate portrayal of this disorder? So one of the first things I want to make sure that's clear is I don't want you to make up a disorder for a movie. So nobody needs to be watching Snow White and then thinking, oh, well, I think she's a hoarder. No, we're not trying to get creative here. That's in another assignment. This one, the movie needs to directly say this person has this disorder. At some point in the film, it needs to be explicitly stated that the character you're discussing has that disorder. They don't have to be the main character, they just have to be a character in the movie. And it has to be explicitly stated. And there's tons of movies out there that will fulfill this particular criteria. So make sure you don't get tripped up by that. Turn this in by its due date, which is right here, September 17th, by midnight. So when midnight strikes, this folder is going to disappear. And then we have this one. Excuse the typo, I'll fix that in post. Due October 22nd by midnight. This is the one where you can be creative. So it's got its own little list of instructions here. And we call it Fractured Fairy Tale. So your job is to rewrite a common fairy tale giving the main character a psychological disorder of your choice. So you get to pick this time what the main character's disorder is. You can choose whatever you want. But remember, it's probably a good idea to choose a fairy tale you're familiar with, and then use your research knowledge of the disorder to rewrite the story as it would be if the main character had this disorder. Stories should not name the disorder, but should describe it within the story. So if you could say that Rapunzel has been hearing voices telling her that if she cuts off her hair, she will turn into an airplane and will be able to escape the castle. And then write that 2-page story. The second half of this assignment is where you do an assessment. It's kind of the epilogue of your fairy tale, where you put in your diagnosis. So what happened to the characters at the end of your fairy tale? What happened after the ending? Assume that they received some kind of treatment. What treatment would you recommend? Knowing what you know about the etiology of these disorders, how do you believe your character developed this disorder? Do you believe this disorder was comorbid with any other disorder? And if so, why? Remember though, while we may have fun with these disorders in this assignment, Please remember that they are a form of personal suffering for those with the disorder and those who live with them and love them. Be respectful, and please do not do anything that may be considered an offensive portrayal of the disorder. Accuracy or realism is fine, but mockery is not. So, your paper should be at least 5 pages, no more than 10. It must be written in APA format, including a title page and reference page. Minimum of 2 academic references. The DSM-5 can be 1. Please don't use Wikipedia. That's not going to end well for you. And one of your sources should be a reference for the original fairy tale you are referencing. So you can't just go straight off of memory. Find a website somewhere that has it, or a book, or something. And here are the list of disorders that I would like you to choose from. So by this point, you can choose quite a few. And here's a list of fairy tales that you might find helpful. Now, if you come up with a fairy tale outside of this list, that's fine. Just send me a link beforehand so that I can confirm that this is a fairy tale that actually exists and not something you made up. And submit it here, and you'll be good for this particular writing assignment. And now we get to writing assignment 3. This is the fun one, the super fun one, the serial killer writing assignment. So in this one, we have instructions and then a whole bunch of other stuff. So for this project, you're going to delve into the world of a specific serial killer. You will research the historical attributes of one specific serial killer, create a PowerPoint presentation, present your presentation to the class, and finally write a written research paper. For the research section, you will select one serial killer from this list or another serial killer if I give approval for it. Please note that you want to select your serial killers early, because once one person has said, hey, I'm doing this, I'm taking them off the list, which you'll see in a moment. And that means that if anyone else after that person asks for that serial killer, I'm going to say, I'm sorry, that serial killer has already been selected, please choose another. So you want to try and get it in early to make sure that your favorites are taken care of. I want you to research the following specific questions about your serial killer. Note that these questions should serve as a guideline and suggestion for research. Not everybody is going to be able to answer every question for their serial killer. You should consider your own question to pose and answer as you do your research. So if you're reading and you're like, I wonder why that happened, or what was this really about, or what could have caused this, ask those questions and figure it out for yourself too. So here's what I mean though about how not every question is going to be able to be answered for every single serial killer. Things like, what was their childhood like? Well, if you chose Jack the Ripper, we still don't know who Jack the Ripper actually is. So you can't answer that question. So a lot of these you wouldn't be able to answer really. So that's important. You got to keep that in mind. There may not be information available that tells you about their childhood. So you got to do a good bit of studying to learn that sort of stuff. Remember when doing your research that you must use a minimum of 3 sources. And I don't mean Wikipedia or just Googling it. You can use resources that you find helpful that are not considered academic or scholarly, but your 3 must be scholarly articles, books, etc. If you're not sure if a source can count as one of your required 3, ask me. Send me an email. That's totally fine. Typically, students use between 4 and 6 resources for this report. So that is the paper portion. It's going to be detailed. It's going to go into details that you don't see in your PowerPoint presentation. Your PowerPoint presentation needs to contain the following: a minimum of 18 total slides, a minimum of 7 photos, 2 of which must be the person you are researching. Please do not put in crime scene photos. We're all going to be watching this, and I don't want to have to clean up vomit. Answer in some form the questions that you are researching. Also, give a list of references as your last side. This needs to be changed to the official date, but you'll see that change to what it's actually supposed to be. Presentations will be given the last week of class. We will sign up for times. essentially by midterm, which we don't have a midterm, but by the second exam, you should be sending me an email telling me who your serial killer is and what time you would like to go. So I will be sending out reminders for all of this to make sure that you don't forget, because I understand that life can happen. Also, keep in mind, you must complete your presentation by its actual due date. So its actual due date is midnight, November 19th. So you need to have that PowerPoint finished and submitted in this Dropbox by this date. Notice that November 27th is when we'll actually be having our presentations. So your presentation is just going to be you standing in front of us, a bunch of strangers, as you talk about this serial killer. We're all going to be doing it, except me. I'll be giving you questions and paying attention. But we're all going to be giving this presentation. That's another key component of this assignment. And that is where this rubric comes in. So the rubric asks, do you have a minimum of 18 slides? Are there pictures of your serial killer? 4 additional pictures or video clips. Complete answers of the main questions. Resources. In your presentation, were you able to field questions from the audience? So we'll be asking you questions. Did you give me a conversation when talking about this? Or did you just look at your notes and read from the note board the entire time? Hint, don't do that. It's terrible for everyone involved. Did it stay within the required time? 10 to 15 minutes. So if you go under or over, that's a problem. And was it a productive use of your time? So I would say if you do proper research, it is impossible to have to do filler. You should have plenty to talk about for your 10 to 15 minutes. So keep that in mind. Don't just have a bunch of dumb things or, oh, here's a bunch of pictures, blah, blah, blah. No, I want lots of good information here. So remember this part. We talked about the report section from your research and all that stuff. Your report should be a complement to your class presentation, as I said before, not just a repeat of it. The presentation and report will certainly have a great deal of overlap. However, the paper is also a place where you can extend your thoughts and research to places which may either be inappropriate for the presentation, maybe because of time constraints, or in order to make connections outside the realm of your killer. The report should contain basic bio information on your individual, the genesis of their killing, so what started it, their respective MO, or how do they tend to kill people, court cases and outcomes if that's relevant, unique aspects to their cases, what happened to this person, and so on. Again, this information would all likely be in your presentation anyways, but no one should be able to watch your presentation and simply follow along with your written report. So those two guys are very, very, very important things to know, that your presentation, with this rubric here, and your report are two separate things. Now, this is where you will turn in first your paper here and your presentation here. This is where you will see who has selected what serial killer. So right now, all serial killers are available at this time, but as soon as somebody sends me an email, this list is going to change and you're going to see that that serial killer has been snatched up and you cannot talk about them. So don't start your report until you've told me who you want to work on and I've confirmed that that person is available. So please keep that in mind. Again, I do want you to tell me when you would like to present as well. So on this last day of classes, or well, not really classes, the final exam day. On this final exam day, you need to tell me, do you want to go first? Do you want to go last? Any of this? Right now there are 10 students enrolled in this course at the time of making this video. So if you say last and then we get 11, you'll get bumped up to 11. If you say that you want to be second, you'll still be second. But if we say have 10 and then 3 people drop and we're down to 7, instead of being 10th, obviously, you'll be 7th. So I will honor that kind of stuff. But it is first come, first serve. And if you keep your mouth shut about it, that means I'm just going to go down the roster alphabetically and plug people in where I need them to be. Again, please try to submit where you would like to be and who your serial killer is by the second exam. And again, I will be sending out reminders for that. Okay, so that's just a quick rundown of all the different writing assignments that you're going to want to work on throughout this semester. Keep that in mind. I hope that you enjoy working on these papers, and I will look forward to seeing you when we give our final presentation, which, don't forget, is November 27th, 2018 at 12 p.m. to 1:55. If that time should change or that location should change, I will let you know, but that is the date when it is going to be. So plan your schedules accordingly. Call off work if you need to. This is not the kind of thing that we would have to be able to proctor necessarily. If it is impossible for you, send me an email and I'll see what we can do, but you need to tell me that sooner rather than later. Alright, that's it, and I'll see you when we have our serial killer meet and greet.